issues, legal issues that make it not be a treaty-based, it's a treaty-based organization, so not legally bound by some of the conversations that bind other blocs. So, we have very different understanding of what the Commonwealth is, and with a combined GDP of over $13 trillion, you'd understand why some countries feel like they have a lot more muscle, financial muscle, and have a lot more say on things that happen around the world. But as we kick things off, I would like us to understand two things. The pandemic taught us, number one, that COVID is the ultimate nullifier to most of the things we know. And regardless of what country you're from, you deserve to be a part of the table. Please, a warm round of applause for every country represented here, regardless of where you're from. So, if we leave here with anything, let's leave here examining the Commonwealth's public profile, leadership, and sense of purpose. We're kicking things off. We'd like to remind everyone, if you'd like to sample local food, games at the exhibition area, and a lot more that's happening, just know that this is a lot more than just a business forum. So we'll let you know exactly the other things that are happening on the sidelines of this, both fun and interactive. A warm thank you to the government of Rwanda and the co-organizer, the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, specifically the anchor partners, Equity, MTN, BPR, and Rwandair, and the lead partners who are TPP and Bank of Kigali, among others, for making this possible. So please, a warm round of applause for them as well. The hashtags, as I said, are CBF 2022 and CHOGM 2022. I did start with a warning. I said it's not business as usual. So let's kick off now with the program. In Africa, it's our birthright to do things phenomenally. This fast performance is no different. She started her career by uploading viral videos, went on to work with many of the world's biggest acts, even won a VMA award for Best Choreography for the Grammy-winning song, This Is America. She'll be performing alongside a team of talented young people and another phenomenal woman, Malaika Uwamahoro, who's a renowned actress, singer, poetess, and social justice activist. This is how we start the Commonwealth Business Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, Sherry Silver.
Hello, Sherry Silver speaking. Yes, we're just unwinding down from the Jubilee weekend, so as you can imagine, nobody wants to work. You want me to come to Rwanda for the Commonwealth Business Forum? Yes, of course I'll be there. I'll be on the next flight.
Ha, Sherry, you can't just leave. You have 3 meetings tomorrow.
I won't miss this summit for anything. There are going to be people from 54 countries there. Take care of the office. You've got this. Book a babysitter for my cats.
Malaika. Right. Did you catch a breath? Have you caught a breath? All right. Please, please, a production by Sherry and Malaika. Let's start off with you, Malaika. Of course, bringing the production together, just let us know what the rationale was. Seeing everything that we've seen right now, aside from giving people heart attacks when the backflips are happening, the rationale to bring it all together.
Oh, it was a lot of work. We had all of you in mind, thinking about you, ways to inspire you so that you can go out there and do what you do best and change the world and make it a better place.
Sherry, for you, a lot of accolades around the world, but working with kids as well, would like to hear how difficult it is, how easy it is, and then now bringing it all to what we've seen.
Did you guys enjoy the show? I wanted to pull some of you up on stage, but I said, let me not pick the wrong one. We had so much fun making this up, and I slept for an hour and a half last night. Yes, that's the longest in a while, so I'm very happy about that. Once Malaika came over to the apartment so we could go through the poetry together, and next minute I see a video of myself sleeping on top of the laptop. So that just gives you an idea of the amount of work that went in. But working with kids is my passion. So it's not a struggle for me. They bring me joy. And one thing I want to say about the kids and a lot of the dancers in this project, a lot of these kids have tough backgrounds. And what I stand for is getting the world to celebrate African dance while Africans benefit. So some of these kids have had the opportunity to fly to America, Cameroon, and Zanzibar with me. And any opportunity I have to give a child in Africa to get to express their dreams, I'm going to do it. So yeah, it was a great time. Thank you.
So people can interact with the two of you after and during the session, right? As much as possible? Perfect. So as they leave the stage, we'd just like you to give us a few minutes, about 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll introduce what the next session is, and I'll call upon one of the most esteemed people within our industries to carry on the next session. So thank you very much, and thank you to all of you. Of the session and the opener, please give a warm round of applause to the person that will take over and carry on the next session. A good friend, esteemed person within the industry, we revere you a lot. Julie Gishuru, who's the Chief Public Affairs and Communications Officer at the MasterCard Foundation. Julie.
Good morning. Wow, wow. Can we give another round of applause to the young people for that energetic start? And just before we begin, may I ask that we all be upstanding for the arrival of His Excellency, the President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. Thank you. And as he comes, very thankful to Rwanda for hosting this session. Incredible organization, collaboration. Thankful also, of course, to the Commonwealth Secretariat.
Reka reka nongere nkushimire we wagize amahitamo meza yo komeza gukurikirana ibiganiro bitandukanye bitegurwa hano kuri televiziyo y'u Rwanda. Reka nakwakire nanone ubu mu gihe tukomeje kwakira inama mpuzamahanga y'umuryango w'ibihugu bikoresha ururimi rw'icyongereza cyangwa Commonwealth. Ibingibi bikaba birimo kubera noneho ahangaha mu mujyi wa Kigali muri ya sare isanzwe imenyekanye izwi nka Kigali, ariko ahangaha n'ubundi hasanzwe habera imurikagurisha. Uyu munsi ingingo tugiye kugarukaho cyane cyane iri bugarukweho n'abatumirwa batandukanye muri CHOGM ni ingingo y'umwihariko ijyanye n'ihuriro ry'ubucuruzi. Ihuriro ry'ubucuruzi rero rikaba rigiye kugaruka ku bijyanye no guhuza imitekerereze ku bijyanye no gutegura ejo hazaza. Ibi bikaba bihuza cyane cyane no kuba abantu bashobora kuganira bagahuza mu bihugu bitandukanye, mu bice bitandukanye by'isi, bakumva umurongo bashobora kuba bafata mu bijyanye no kubaka ejo hazaza h'isi muri rusange. Jewe uri kubagezaho ibi biganiro Njiruziga Emmanuel Masantura, nkaba nakurarikira yuko mu by'ukuri muri aka kanya uri buze gukurikira ingingo zitandukanye ziri bugarukweho n'abatumirwa batandukanye bari ahangaha muri iyi sare cyangwa iyi tent yo kuri Kigali isanzwe ikorerwamo amamurika atandukanye. Iyi sare rero n'ubundi igiye kwakira abantu bari buganire ku ngingo zigize ubucuruzi. Mu ngingo ziri bugarukweho cyane cyane hariho ingingo ijyanye no kuba ikoranabuhanga ryakabaye ryifashishwa mu bijyanye no gufasha ibihugu yaba ibyateye imbere n'ibikiri mu nzira y'amajyambere kuba byashyiraho umurongo uhurizwaho mu bijyanye no kwiteza imbere. Icya kabiri kiganirwaho cyane cyane n'ibijyanye n'ishoramari mu bihugu bikiri mu nzira y'amajyambere, cyane cyane ibiri muri uyu umuryango wa Commonwealth cyangwa umuryango w'ibihugu bikoresha ururimi rw'icyongereza. Ibigarukaho nanone ni ukureba mu bikenewe n'iki mu gihe isi irimo kugenda yivana mu bibazo byatewe n'icyorezo cya COVID-19 uyu munsi. Ese ibihugu byiteguye bingana iki mu bijyanye no gukemura ibibazo byatewe n'iki cyorezo cya COVID-19, bongera gusana ubukungu no kubwubaka muri rusange muri ibi bihe bidasanzwe cyangwa icyo bita new normal, ibihe byo kwiyakira yuko hari ikibazo cyabaye yego, ariko no kwitegura mu buryo bwo kubaka urukuta, kubaka ubwirinzi buhambaye bwafasha mu bijyanye no gukuraho imbogamizi zindi zarizo zose zishobora kuba zaterwa n'iki cyorezo, ariko no kwirinda mu bijyanye no kuba habaho ikindi cyorezo kirenze iki cyangwa gisa n'iki, maze isi ikaba yakwitegura. Ishoramari rero rirasabwa gushorwa mu byiciro bitandukanye, ibyiciro birimo ubuzima, ibyiciro birimo uburezi, ibyiciro birimo ubuhinzi kugira ngo habeho kwihaza ku biribwa, ibyiciro bijyanye no gufatanya mu mutekano, mu ishoramari mu bijyanye n'ubukerarugendo ndetse n'ingendo z'ikirere, ibikorwa remezo muri rusange. Ibi byose bikaba biri buganirweho kuri uyu munsi muri iyi nama n'abatumirwa batandukanye, mu gihe tuganira cyane cyane ku kuba ihuriro ry'ubukungu n'ubundi ryakabaye ihuriro rikuraho ubusumbane ku isi hagati y'ibihugu bikennye n'ibihugu bikize, ndetse n'ubusumbane hagati y'abantu ku giti cyabo, mu gihe tuba tuganira cyane cyane ku bukungu n'imisaruro mbumbe w'ibihugu bitandukanye, kugira ngo abakene bavanwe muri icyo cyiciro cy'ubukene bazamurwa bagera mu cyiciro cyo kwishobora. Ibi rero bikaba byazakorwa hifashishijwe ibiganiro bitandukanye nk'ibi ngibi biri bubere muri iri huriro ry'ubukungu.
For the arrival of His Excellency President Paul Kagame. Murakoze, asante sana. Thank you. You may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Let me also recognize the presence of the Prime Minister of Bahamas, His Excellency Philip Davis. Great to have you with us as well. Your Excellencies, global business leaders, distinguished guests, it's an honor to take you through this opening ceremony for the Commonwealth Business Forum. A very, very warm welcome. My name is Julie, thank you. My name is Julie Gishuru. I'm a passionate Afro-optimist, and I am the Chief Public Affairs and Communications Officer at the MasterCard Foundation, and it's an honor to be with you all. Now, this gathering comes at a critical point in time for the Commonwealth, for the world. This is an opportunity for us to engage, to learn, to share, to probe, to push the boundaries on our thinking, to connect deeply and purposefully, and to aim high. We face many challenges, we all know this, but we also have many opportunities. And how do we unpack this to deliver on a common future? That's why we are here. Before we go any further, allow me to invite the CEO of the Rwanda Development Board, Claire Akamanzi, to come up and make opening remarks. Thank you.
Mr. President, before you came, we had such a lively assortment of dancers from the Commonwealth. It's very difficult to come after that. Your Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Philip Davis of the Bahamas, Honorable Christophe Fayan, Deputy Prime Minister Malta and Minister of Health, Right Honorable Patricia Scotland, Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Lord Marland, Chairman, Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, captains of industry, senior government officials, leaders of global and international organizations, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's actually good morning. I see that you're following. I am truly delighted to finally say, welcome to Rwanda, the land of 1,000 hills and 1,000,000 smiles, and to the Commonwealth Business Forum 2022. We waited a long time to host you, but the wait is over. We are glad that you're all here physically, showing the full strength and diversity of the Commonwealth. There's nothing quite like the power of in-person meetings for collaboration and engaged discourse. The Commonwealth Business Forum in Rwanda is truly a momentous occasion. We are particularly glad that the CHOGM is back in Africa after a whole 14 years. We are privileged to launch together a connected, transformative, and innovative future. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to host you at a time when the world is getting healthier, more resilient, and even more determined to deliver a common, prosperous future for all. Collective action will be required to emerge from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, which indiscriminately disrupted economies, businesses, communities, livelihoods, and our entire way of life. Yet, before our economies fully recover from the pandemic, we are now also confronted with a tougher macroeconomic environment that is threatening short-term economic prospects. A key lesson from the pandemic is that collaboration is the only answer when confronted with such global challenges. We can only emerge from a crisis when we come together and collectively seek to find the most innovative solutions. This is why this gathering of the Commonwealth family could not have come at a more important time. Over the next 3 days, business and government leaders gathered here will engage in an impactful and pertinent conversations on trade and regional integration, innovation and the digital economy, sustainability, financing growth, global health equity, and the future of work. Allow me to share 4 quick questions that will guide our discussions over the next 3 days. First, how do we enhance trade and businesses with each other to revive and reinvigorate our economies in order to recover from the deteriorated inter-Commonwealth trade flows that took us back a decade? Second, how best do we embrace innovation to drive sustainable economic recovery, as with so many governments, startups, and businesses do during the pandemic? Innovation matters greatly for long-term global economic growth, but innovation also thrives in diversity, a strong attribute of the Commonwealth. Third, how do we ensure that as we strive for recovery and long-term prosperity, we are doing so in an inclusive manner? We all have a responsibility to create meaningful jobs and opportunities for the 1.2 billion young people in the Commonwealth. Fourth, in all this, how do we ensure that we contribute to a healthy people and a healthy planet? We are grateful to an exceptional cohort of conversation leaders at this year's CBF who are leaders and experts in their fields and who will share their valuable insights on how to deliver a connected, innovative, and transformed Commonwealth. We are further thankful to our leaders in the Commonwealth for including businesses in these critical discussions. A special thanks to our host leader, His Excellency President Paul Kagame, for not only providing a conducive environment for these discussions, but also for gracing this Commonwealth Business Forum with your presence this morning. We also thank our generous partners for this year's CBF. Partnerships are what CBF is all about. When we come together, united in purpose, we will collectively complete the tasks ahead of us. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, allow me to invite all the guests that we have in this room that while you're here, please discover Rwanda. Discover our made in Rwanda products from coffee, tea, electric motorcycles, smartphones, drones, VW branded cars, as well as jewelry. These can be found in the exhibition in Virunga Hall, just below this room, as well as another exhibition that we have for the private sector at Kigali Arena. There will also be a fashion week featuring designers from 7 Commonwealth countries. So please don't miss the opportunity to pick a fashion item, and made in Rwanda particularly, such as those adorning none other than yours truly. Visit Rwanda and discover our touristic attractions, from the rare mountain gorillas to the big 5 animals, cultural and historic museums, as well as culinary experiences. For this week, remember to sign up for side events such as street festivals, golf, cricket, among others, as well as a concert at the end of the week. Lastly, invest in Rwanda and in the Commonwealth. There are 19 investment promotion agencies from all over the Commonwealth ready to show you investment opportunities in their countries. Visit our own Invest in Rwanda stand here at the exhibition and learn about our own opportunities. And if you decide to invest, we will register your business within 6 hours here at the exhibition. And to make sure that your luggage is not too heavy, we shall deliver your certificate by email. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to wish you a fruitful CBF 2022 and a wonderful stay in Rwanda. Thank you.
Wow, talk about ease of doing business. Thank you, Claire. Really, really remarkable. The wait is over. This is a momentous occasion. My question back, what will we do with it? What will we achieve over the next few days? And while you're doing all that, visit Rwanda and experience Rwanda. Next, I would like to welcome Lord Marland, the chairman of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council and a trustee of the Commonwealth Walkway Trust. A warm round of applause for Lord Marland of Odstock. Thank you.
Well, I don't know about the dancers being a hard act to follow, but Claire, you are a very hard act to follow. It's going to be very difficult making this speech as well as you did. Well, we've made it. Incredible, all of you. We've had COVID, we've had travel difficulties, and we've had more COVID, but we've made it. And I just want to take this moment to remember those who have lost their loved ones, who have suffered during COVID, and who have made the delay of this conference inevitability. So please let us remember them for all that suffering. But it is irresistible for us to come to irresistible Rwanda. What a fantastic welcome we've had, and what a fantastic country. I went on a motorbike yesterday round to see the cricket ground, the new cricket ground that has been made, a really wonderful experience seeing the countryside and its country. And congratulations to Claire and Louise from RDB, and indeed my team, for putting this magnificent event together. Thank you. They thoroughly deserve that applause. How many times people have said to me, what is the point of the Commonwealth? And if they wanted a good example of what the point of the Commonwealth, they should look no further than here. 1,700 delegates from 50 countries around the Commonwealth, all with a single endeavour. We have leaders of countries, leaders of business, millionaires, entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and royalty. Where else do you get that? And then, of course, we have in the audience all of us who would like to be one of those, particularly the royalty. This is the Commonwealth family. This is what is gathered for the next few days to celebrate and to create a future, and a big future, for the Commonwealth. And this is proper business. This is how it is done. Interaction, network, discussing, and trading together. For 3 days we will talk enterprise, investment, because through these we have prosperity, growth, and lifting people out of poverty. And these are going to be absolutely critical in this post-COVID era. And Mr. President, I'd like to pay tribute to you and your government of Rwanda, because you have created an environment which has embraced free trade, which has made the country secure and safe, and has a rule of law that is enforced. And these are the 3 critical areas that are attractive for business. But most of all, Mr. President, I congratulate you on your vision, that you recognise the Commonwealth is the future for trade and business, and the vision that you have for putting yourself forward to be chair in office for the next 2 years. And we wish you and the country of Rwanda all success. We stand by to help you. Let the business begin.
Thank you, Lord Marland. Let the business begin. With that, let me now welcome the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, Secretary General of the Commonwealth, to deliver her opening remarks. A warm round of applause as she comes up, please. Thank you.
Your Excellency, President Paul Kagame, my dear sister Claire from the RDB, Lord Marland, Excellencies, distinguished participants, Commonwealth friends and colleagues, and since I am in Africa, I hope you will allow me to say all protocols observed. It is wonderful to see so many of you here in Kigali. And I'm delighted to welcome you to CHOGM and the Commonwealth Business Forum. It's been a long time coming, but it really is worth the wait. Our Commonwealth is a growing family of 54 nations, and it's home to 1/3 of the world, more than 2.5 billion people, 60% of whom are under the age of 30. So we are a young, vibrant Commonwealth. And our mixture of advanced economies, developing economies, and small states is spread across the globe. We are bound by values enshrined in our charter, values of peace, democracy, human rights, the rule of law, solidarity, collaboration, and mutual respect. We benefit from practical similarities in language, common law, regulatory coherence, and large and dynamic diaspora communities. If you look around us, we are one. And for these reasons, when I took office as your Secretary General in 2016, I outlined my vision to put the wealth back into Commonwealth and to put the common back into wealth so that we all could share in a future filled with prosperity. And at the very heart of our mission, of all 54 countries, is trade, the lifeblood of economic activity and the arteries of the economic relationships between our Commonwealth member countries. And at the heart of our approach to trade is our shared advantage, the Commonwealth advantage. The Commonwealth advantage is built on the conjoining of values, practical similarities, and shared interests. It means that whilst the Commonwealth is not a formal trading bloc, trade costs between Commonwealth countries are 21% lower on average. Investment flows between Commonwealth countries are on average 27% higher than those between other country pairs, almost tripling since 2015. And the combined GDP of Commonwealth countries is now around 13 trillion US dollars. And it is estimated to reach $19.5 trillion in 2027, just 5 years away. And the advantage reaches right across our Commonwealth. And I can assure you that our small states are part of the Commonwealth advantage, with Commonwealth countries accounting for more than 30% of small states' international trade on average. Yet, as we gather here in Rwanda, the outlook for global trade has become more challenging. There is potentially slower GDP growth or even recession in some economies. Persistent supply chain disruptions, rising inflation, interest rates, and debt. Soaring costs from freight to food and energy, and the wider economic repercussions of the war in Ukraine. I am, however, reassured by 3 key findings from our latest research on trade. First, intra-Commonwealth trade exports surpassed the threshold of 700 billion US dollars in 2019. Second, these exports rebounded in 2021 and are estimated at 768 billion US dollars, the highest ever recorded in value terms. So we have gone against the global trade, and our Commonwealth advantage stays strong. And third, we project that intra-Commonwealth exports will grow steadily over the next 5 years, surpassing $1 trillion US dollars by 2026. And we hope to put trade back on track following the unprecedented economic setbacks caused by COVID-19 pandemic and the spillover effects of the Ukraine conflict. Of course, an inclusive and sustainable recovery in trade requires a strong and effective rules-based multilateral trading system. And I really wish to commend the efforts of the World Trade Organization, its members, the Director General, and the Secretariat staff for delivering a successful outcome to last week's 12th Ministerial Conference. Because besides restoring confidence in the multilateral trading system, the Geneva package will help boost COVID-19 recovery and build resilience, whilst tackling current and future global challenges. And I'm really delighted that during MC12, the Director General of the WTO and I signed an MOU specifically to enable us to work more trenchantly together to promote trade and equity for all our members. This MOU joins those we have signed with UNCTAD, with ITC, with the UN, with the African Development Bank, and I'm so glad to see my dear brother Akin and Asina here. And I want to just remind you that the African Development Bank became #1 financial institution in the world today. So, I think he really deserves that clap. And we've also joined with the Caribbean Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, amongst others, thereby and therefore strengthening and enabling the multilateral fabric to grow stronger so that it will benefit us all and improve our cost effectiveness and our efficiency. And it's clear from both the WTO and the Secretariat research that digital trade is an increasingly important part of our future, and the WTO and the Commonwealth believe that the Commonwealth can be the fulcrum for global good practice, regulation, and statutory certainty in this area. And we are working with all our member states under the Commonwealth Connectivity Agenda. We have identified 5 pillars. The first, digital connectivity cluster. Then there's the physical connectivity cluster, the regulatory connectivity cluster, the supply side connectivity cluster, and the business-to-business connectivity cluster. Each of these pillars are led by our member states. And I am happy to inform you that substantial progress has been made to boost intra-Commonwealth trade and investment, and this pathway will lead us to our goal of $2 trillion in intra-Commonwealth trade by 2030. There are many opportunities for us to work together to boost intra-Commonwealth trade. But what we know is that we have to have solidarity, determination, and courage. And our member states are showing all of those elements. We are going to improve connectivity, enhance cooperation, promote regulatory coherence and interoperability, improve trade logistics and trade facilitation, break down barriers, leverage digital technologies and e-commerce, empower women and young people as entrepreneurs. And can I just say, no one, absolutely no one, has more intelligent, courageous, inspirational, wonderfully innovative young people than we. And they are kicking it out of the park. So I think there's an opportunity for us to seize the long-term benefits of green trade and the energy transition. And we are already working together on these issues, on all of these issues, through our connectivity agenda. We've got our Blue Charter, our Sustainable Energy Transition Agenda, and if the leaders agree, we will have our Living Lands Charter too. So those 3 Rio Conventions won't just be a dream. Our members are going to turn them all into the new reality. And there are other initiatives and programs to help boost trade recovery in a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable way. And we also support small states to access trade finance through the Commonwealth Small States Trade Finance Facility. And I hope that this business forum, this long-awaited, glorious business forum in the land of 1,000 hills and 1,000 opportunities, will really give us the opportunity to come even closer together, to redouble our commitment to enhance the framework for intra-Commonwealth trade, and to put the target to reach 2 trillion in intra-Commonwealth trade by 2030 beyond doubt. We have the ability, we have the opportunity. All we have to do is choose. And I'm so glad everyone here is making that choice. So I look forward to all that you will achieve, all the innovation, all the energy. And I know many of you will be looking at Lord Marland and wondering, how on earth did he get that tan? We need to give him a bit of competition, those of us of African heritage. And I thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Secretary General, for those comments. We must put trade back on track, and we need it to be inclusive and sustainable. But allow me just to take a moment to ask Akina Desina to stand up for a moment. And can we just recognize the achievement of the African Development Bank, ladies and gentlemen? It's no small thing. It's no small thing. And a very big part of inclusion and sustainability is building strong, local, indigenous, and as we're on the continent, African institutions, really, really important. So let me just highlight that as well. And really, really good to hear how we center women and young people at the middle of all of this. Thank you so much. At this point, we will be headed in a moment into the panel session, but first we're going to watch a video. Let me ask the team to play the video, "We Are the Commonwealth." Thank you. Murakoze. Yeah, did I say it right? Next, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome. Makhtar Diop, please, Executive VP, IFC, World Bank, please do come up and take a seat. Right next to me, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Andrew Forrest, Non-Executive Chairman, Fortescue Metals Group and Chairman and Co-Founder of Minderoo Foundation. Please do come up right next to His Excellency, please. Thank you. Dr. Akinwunmi Adesina, please do come up, President of the African Development Bank. Right next to Dr. Forrest, please. And last but certainly not least, and I'm so happy to see another lady on this panel with me, Amali Chivanti de Alvis, who is a CEO of Subank. A warm round of applause, please, as she comes up. So thank you all. Great to have you with us on the panel. As we start the conversation, one quick starter. A question around this common future. We are here talking about delivering on a common future, but perhaps the first question is, do we all have a common vision for this common future? And I want to tap into each of your thoughts on that. When you think of what this common future should be, paint a picture for us. What do you see? His Excellency, let me start with you, please.
We may not take it for granted that it is that way, but we can work at it and make sure that it is the way we want it. First, to make it common to all of us, that is the understanding. But what is to be taken for granted is that there is a future for us. So I think it is always going to be work in progress, that people will keep harmonizing their different views about what we think, what we have to do, looking at the future and what we want to see in that future. So I think there is already the understanding that we have to work for a common future. So we have to work at that and make sure that we get it. So I think it's work in progress. We are moving towards the point, and I am optimistic that the world has a lot of divergences, but at the same time, on everyone's mind and every nation's vision, there is thinking of that common future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you believe there's a common understanding. Let me jump to Amali on this one now. Thanks. What do you see?
Thank you very much. I think the biggest common point, I think, for all of us is that we have a planet to live on in 100 years' time, and that all of us who are living here can do so with access to healthcare and to education, that we can be thriving in our countries, that we can be looking after our natural resources and managing that effectively whilst driving the growth and prosperity of our countries as well. This is not an easy challenge, but I'm enthusiastic about it. I think we see some incredible work being done, and I must admit I'm blown away. My first visit to Rwanda, you have an amazing country, President. And I think, for me, coming here and having us all together to be able to share our knowledge, share our resources, to help each other to solve these big challenges, that's the common future as I see it. And certainly I'm feeling very bullish that I think we are heading in better directions with that.
Thank you for that. Makhtar Diop, from your view, what do you see?
I'm seeing a world which is full of uncertainty, but I think that uncertainty can be transformed in certainty. And to do that, we need to structurally transform what is happening on the continent. All these uncertainties coming from crises which is multiform: food, health, slowdown, disturbance in the value supply chain. But what we have seen here in Rwanda in response to the COVID-19 crisis is a good example of what I'm telling in terms of structural transformation. which requires for me three things: ambition, vision, and implementation capacity. When the crisis started and the world was talking about vaccine crisis and inequity, this country sees that opportunity, sees that moment to say, let's do things differently and structurally. And this is a good illustration of what I think that needs to be done in the vision I have for the continent. A vision where the continent will take this uncertainty, transform it in certainty, and to do that, we have all the instruments, and one of them is Africa Trade Agreement.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Dr. Adesina, your view.
Well, thank you. First, let me thank His Excellency President Paul Kagame for inviting us here, so I have an opportunity to thank you, and also to thank my dear sister, Secretary General Patricia Scotland, for this fantastic meeting. I think when one talks about common future, President Kagame said it already. And I think also what just said by Mokhtar. When you enter Kigali, it's different every single time you enter it. The last time I came to see the president was 3 years ago. And I couldn't even recognize Kigali when I got here. So when we talk about a common future needs good leadership to shape that future. And that's what you have here. And I also think that kind of common future is what Patricia Scotland just very well explained to us here just this morning. The second thing I want to say is, just listening to the Secretary General, just as she was talking, you were saying that the size of the economy of the Commonwealth will go, it's about $13 trillion. Now, but the issue is, it's concentrated though. 5 countries are the ones that actually control most of those. That is UK, that is Australia, Canada, maybe Nigeria, and India. So that common future must be exactly what President Kagame said, Commonwealth. It must be well shared all across. The second one is also that the common future must be the future of the youth. And when I was just watching up there, and you said 60% of the population of the Commonwealth is less than the age of 29. So the future is here. So we got to make sure that we build the Commonwealth for the youth. It's 73 years old, but it's actually a very young Commonwealth. And the last point I wanted to make on the common future is what Malice said. We cannot have a common future without a common planet. So we have to have climate resilience. We have to make sure that, as also President Kagame and also Mokhtar was saying, that we also have vaccines. Today we are here, we are doing well because we have vaccines, but it's an inequitable access to vaccines. Only 16% of Africa has access to vaccines. So we cannot have that common future in which we all live unless we have equitable access to vaccines.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And there's a lot of ongoing work on the continent in that regard as well right now. Dr. Forrest, let me come to you. What do you see? What's a common future for you?
Well, I have to admit to being really excited about the vision that I see for the Commonwealth. And it's kind of encapsulated, I think, in my relationship with President Kagame. We had dinner together in my home not long after you became president at your first CHOGM, I think. And just to see the growth across the Commonwealth, but in particular in relation to human values, human rights, where we have to start is equal education outcomes, not targets, equal education outcomes for girls and boys. And of course, that removes any possibility of having forced marriage or childhood marriage or any form of modern slavery. We're not going to get there with those things which are dragging the economies down. But how to build the economies up? Well, I think the greatest way to build the economies up is just to come swinging back to vaccinations. We have to remove the fear of disease. That is for certain. We need to really prolifically invest vaccinations into Africa. But even more prolifically and even more certain and more permanently, we've got to invest in our children. We have to invest in girls and boys, equal education outcomes. And how then do we create this level playing field between developing nations, between African nations, Commonwealth nations, and the rest of the world? Well, it isn't through just continuously backing dirty fuels, continuously backing hyper expensive, the more you use it, the more expensive they become, fossil fuels. We have new technology breaking across the world. We have a huge new possibility for every member of the Commonwealth, particularly here in Africa, of very inexpensive. The more you use it, the cheaper it becomes. The more you use it, the more abundant it becomes, and that's renewable energy. Green electrons from electricity, green molecules like fossil fuel, but this time they don't destroy the environment. You can transport them everywhere. A transportable energy future like coal, oil, or gas, but it's fully green, no harm, and the more you use it, the cheaper it becomes. Here in Africa, the Renewable Energy Agency of the world says you have 1,000 times more renewable energy than you're ever going to need by 2040. Let's capture that for the kids. Let's capture that for the economy, and let's capture that for equality.
Thank you. Wow. That's an incredible statistic. Let me come back to you now, President Kagame. And when you look at the role of the Commonwealth on delivering on this common future, and I think we've mentioned the importance of leadership, the importance of, so at national level, country level. Talk us through the role of the Commonwealth and what we need to do better, what we need to lean into.
Yeah, with the Commonwealth, we already have many things in common, indeed. Be it the language, be it the different systems, financial systems that would enable us to make investments, trade with each other, all together. So there is a starting point that is more or less, I would say, good enough. But we need to make it better. We need to keep making sure that the Commonwealth, when we talk about the Commonwealth, we actually mean the Commonwealth, not just that being common to a few of the many 54 countries. So, and this is why I said it keeps being a work in progress. We keep having to engage one another, finding out what we can do to bring that balance to the extent that everyone in the Commonwealth, the family of nations, feels they are part of it. Right. No one is left behind. I think this is what we have to focus on. So that, even those at the low level, that was said earlier, the small developing nations feel they're not left behind. We uplift everyone and move towards that and fulfill that obligation to the commonness that we aspire to in this family of nations. So, whether it is trade, it's trade and business, investments, different things. When other issues were talked about, health, we had this pandemic, we had a shortage of vaccines. At times, vaccines were there for fewer countries than the many that were left without for quite a long time. But at a certain point, of course, we were able now to see that flow to the people who were lacking in that. But the pace at which things move needs to be increased, and so that we give more value to the Commonwealth and the feelings of the people of the Commonwealth.
Okay, so the pace is really important then. Let's go ahead. And I think referencing also, so well put by the Secretary General, Patricia Scotland, earlier, how to put the common back into the wealth, ensuring inclusion, ensuring a feeling of belonging and value for the small as well as the bigger members of the Commonwealth. And thank you for that. Let me come to you now. As Managing Director of the IFC, Magdar, what kind of mechanisms for finance do we require in place to really deliver on this vision?
No, thank you very much, Julie. I would like just to rebound of what President Kagame just said. I think that when talking about Commonwealth is a world in common, and he's been challenging all of us to be moving faster and to do our share, which is quite essential if we want to build this world in common. Let's take the case of vaccine. When the challenge came, President Kagame, with his vision and his leadership, brought the country to hopefully being able to produce very soon vaccine. What is the shared responsibility and commonality? Is the rest of the world now needs to buy this vaccine. Rwanda has done what it has to do, is to do the first step, to use its resources, to mobilize people, to organize that. But if the world doesn't come and buy this vaccine, we don't see that communality arriving. And that's where I see the transformation of the continent. Let's take another example. We heard that Rwanda is producing EVs. We're talking about climate change. This is a contribution, one of the contributions to the fight against climate change. But if the rest of the world doesn't buy the EVs produced here in Rwanda and only buy it in countries we used to buy it, we will not have that share wealth that we are talking about. Let me take a third example, which is the food crisis. The continent has a potential to produce and to have a resilient value chain in food production. We have a lot to do in Africa, and President Kagame is challenging us every day to do more, and he's doing more for his own country to build resilient value chain in Africa, and the potential is here. My brother Akin has been advocating it all his career because it's his specialty. But if we don't have also a trading mechanism which allow African countries to export those products which has been transformed here, where the value addition has been increased here, we will not be able to reach that. So this is a challenge of the communality of this wealth that we are talking about. So how to reach there? First, as I said, is ambition, not to have a ceiling and say, this is not possible in the continent. The second one is to have the vision on how to do it. The third one is implementation. And President Kagame, every time I meet with you, Excellency, you go back to me and say, implementation, implementation, and implementation. We have now some tools. In IFC, for instance, what we are doing more and more, we'll be financing a special facility for SMEs in Africa, and we'll be financing trade financing. As been mentioned earlier, trade financing will be an essential part of building a resilient ecosystem and value chain in Africa. So we need to dedicate particular and specific resources to help intra-Africa trade. So these are some of the elements that I think will be helping moving forward. And lastly, de-risking investment. We have a lot of businessmen here who don't know the continent as we know it, and who would like to put their money in the economy, but ask us to de-risk it. So we'll be bringing our resources to de-risk it and to be able to attract more investment. So we have a very full agenda before us, and we are very glad and lucky to have President Kagame to guide us in that process. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Very, very clear ambition, the vision to get there, implementation, absolutely critical. And as we've been talking about vaccines, maybe just important to say that Africa's response to COVID-19 through, empowering the Africa CDC has been a really critical factor as well in driving, the ability now for this bold ambition around vaccine manufacturing and even delivery of vaccines. And this has been a partnership effort between heads of state. As a foundation, we were honored to partner with the Africa CDC on the Saving Lives and Livelihoods Partnership. And what I'd like us all to sit and think is, as we talk about this, whatever sector you're from, what's your role in plugging in, and how do we best work together and partner to really move things along? So Amali, let me come to you next, and let's just take a look at You know, the role of technology and innovation in addressing today's most pressing issues really, really important. And I know you are very passionate about sustainable growth and combating climate change. So talk us through what you see. Where do we need to step up? What needs to be done?
I mean, technology is amazing, isn't it? I mean, we have gone through, and I was chatting to some other guests on the way here and saying, you know, what a different COVID we would have had maybe 15, 20 years ago if technology wasn't in the place, you know, the ability for us to continue. Each of us here today, we carry around supercomputers in our pockets. You know, we have wristwatches which probably have more compute powers than we use sending people to the moon. You know, so technology is now fiber. This is what connects us as people, as populations. My company, Subak, we were set up during COVID. I have our office in Australia. I've never met these people. Everything was done remotely. When I hear things about how we can set up businesses in Rwanda in, what was it, six minutes, was it, or something like that? 6 hours, 6 hours. 6 minutes is the next goal, maybe. Sorry, Claire, giving you big jobs here.
The new challenge.
But this is incredible, right? I mean, this is what technology allows us to do. And, you know, Subak we're named after the Indonesian Water Cooperative, and the way that we see it is to say, look, data is our water, right? This is what feeds us. Information is what helps us to grow. And I think the ability of technology to connect us across all of our regions, for us to learn from each other, is so critical. You know, we launched our data catalog. So everyone here, if you are interested in climate data, data.subak.org, you can go and access this. So for everyone who is solving problems, what we basically say is, look, whatever your system, whatever you're trying to do, whoever you are, private company, public company, NGO, individual, let's help you find this information and use the technology. And, you know, it's fantastic to see how startups, how young people are using this. So we recently signed our first Rwandan fellow, our research fellow, an incredible young man, Ghislaine, who is looking at EV vehicles and creating dashboards to optimize that. We have companies who are looking at satellite data of the Congo Basin to look at where illegal logging and roads are taking place. So these is what technology allows us to do, to solve these big problems at speed, collaboratively. And I think, you know, for all of us here, you know, to take that opportunity to nurture that. And I must admit, you know, this is my first visit to Rwanda. I am very much hoping it won't be my last, because I'm so excited by what you are doing here. And I think if I can have a few conversations, I'm meeting with your director of your Kigali Innovation City later, but I would love to bring Subak here. We are launching a fundraise, and I would love to make Rwanda our continental hub, actually, for climate data.
Wonderful. Andrew, let me come to you. I think you painted such a vivid picture when you were looking forward for us, and just want to tap more into this idea of access to just, inclusive, and equitable energy transition. How do we achieve this? Because that's the whole challenge, right? So what's that journey, and what role can different stakeholders play?
Yeah, let's just go to His Excellency's magic words, which have been repeated by my brothers in development. Implementation. Now, everyone can have great ideas, great plans. There's projects which have been in Africa which haven't been developed for decades. But I believe their time has come. You know, when we think of Africa as a huge green energy superpower, which first has supplied all the electrons to keep these lights on to allow kids to do their homework at night, which is bereft to many, that we can in fact dramatically accelerate cheap energy to all the homes throughout Africa with very cheap electrons, because we now have green energy. Then we have to think, what is stopping the implementation of that? If that can create the equity we need to make sure little girls have the same education outcomes, therefore the same opportunities as boys, then what's getting in the road of that? Well, I can only give you, Your Excellency, and all of you, my own personal lived experience. There's a lot of talk out there in the Western world about the trillions of dollars of capital which can be made available to developing nations, to African nations, to the Commonwealth. but it doesn't actually appear. It's more like fake friends. And the stumbling block here for my real friends on this stage and in this audience is that while the capital is there and the projects are there and there's great managers like my own team and many other teams around the world who can implement these projects, we can take construction risk, we can take execution risk, we can take finance risk, we can take marketing risk, long-term risk, short-term risk, but what we can't take is sovereign risk. And who's best to provide sovereign risk? Sovereigns. And you've got these spectacular multilaterals here on this stage, which could manage this like that if we can get Western nations to step up and say, okay, you don't want money from us, that's fine. You can get it from the capital markets. It's free, fair, competitive markets. And it's abundant. There is no shortage of capital. It's the allocation of capital to give the implementation the President asked for across his nation, across all Commonwealth nations. We removed that sovereign risk, which is simply expropriation or egregious, or that means very unfair tax changes. Remove that risk through insurance, and these multilaterals are amongst the best in financial history, not best in the world, best in financial history at getting developing nations going. They can muster that insurance. We can finance from across the world, from those trillions of dollars, and then we can implement President Kagame's dreams.
That's real talk. Thank you. Thank you for cutting to the bones of it. Let me come to you now, Kenan, just asking, you know, when we look at youth and women, and we're sitting on the continent with the fastest growing youth population in the world, we've recognized that 60% of people in the Commonwealth are young people. So what is our role, and how do we go about enabling and empowering young people and women?
Thanks very much. You know, the first is that to be able to support young people, we all, in all of what we do, we have to prioritize young people in all of our financing. Because I think that for Africa and for all of the Commonwealth countries, the really issue is we have to create youth-based wealth. You know, if you have a demographic that is actually aging in some places and a lot more in terms of young people, what they actually need is access to skills, to education, to finance. It's very, very critical that we do that. Now, let me give some concrete examples about how we are doing this at the African Development Bank. You know, we've put the issue of jobs for youth in Africa at the center of what we do. Before I was elected, when I was elected president of the bank, 7 days before I took my job, I went to, what is that place in your country? Gore Island, Mr. President. I went over there and I stood in this door, which you call the door of no return. And that's where they took all the slaves out. And I asked myself when I go back into my car, this is where they took all of our talents, our strong people, you know, everybody out. But then I got into my car and I started thinking, today, those people left, they were taken against their volition. Today, we have young people on their own volition. They get on rickety boats and they head to the Mediterranean, heading to Europe. So let me be very clear, Secretary General, I don't believe that the future of Africa's youth lies in Europe. I don't believe it lies in Latin America or Asia or anywhere else. It lies in Africa growing well, able to create quality, decent, competitive jobs for its young people. And I'll give you concrete examples. For example, right here in Rwanda, we started a program called Coding, just also like Mali was saying, Coding for Employment. At the bank, this work is to prepare the youth for the digital future that the Secretary General was talking about. We established about 130 centers of excellence that will have about 234 young people, 1,000 people that are coders. Right here in Rwanda, Mr. President, we have with you the Kigali Coding Academy, Rwanda Coding Academy, which is to develop world-class people in software engineering. In Nigeria, we have folks from Nigeria here. We have an IDICE program in digital and creative industries. We're investing $170 million there with Islamic Development Bank, with also Agence Française de Développement, to help to create about 6.1 million jobs, right? So I think we have to upskill the youth for the jobs of the future. The second thing I want to say is that, I cannot say this without talking of agriculture. Agriculture is the coolest job in the world. And I hope that our young people will realize that, because the size of the food and ag business in Africa by 2030 is going to be worth a whopping $1 trillion. So if you're trying to be a billionaire, it's not going to come from oil and gas. Nobody drinks oil, nobody smokes gas, everybody eats food. And so we got to be into agriculture as a business. The third thing that I want to say is finally about how we finance young people. He was just saying, Fortes was talking about how we finance the issue of climate and energy transition. But today you look at Africa, our financial institutions are not set up for young people. We have missing financial institutions. We have actually missing markets to serve them. We have a population, young people, Julie, 455 million people. It's going to rise to 845 million by 2050. So we have to create new financial ecosystems around young people. And that's why at the African Development Bank, we took the decision that we are going to now create what is called Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Banks. There will be new financial institutions. There will be, Mr. President, there will be new financial institutions that will create ecosystems of support around the businesses of young people. Today, you go to a bank, you're trying to get money. They ask you, how old are you? You say, 21 years old. They said, go and bring your tax receipts for the last 40 years. What does that really mean? So, but these youth entrepreneurship investment banks will finance the businesses of young people in a life cycle model throughout, as you use different instruments, from technical assistance to debt to equity financing, to grow their businesses. The point I'm trying to make is this. The future that we were talking about at the beginning of this panel, for it to happen, we have to create new financial institutions that can create...
Approach focusing on young people and women, and at the MasterCard Foundation, our Young Africa Work strategy is focused on delivering 30 million young people with work opportunities. Dignified and fulfilling work is our focus. So we are walking this journey together, all of us, doing our respective things. And so as we close this panel, my question is, what is the promise that we must make to young people in the Commonwealth and young people across the globe, I guess, by extension? And Amali, can I begin with you?
I think, building on my fellow guest here, I think the promise of education, that we will train them to have the skills that they need to fit for the future. Whether that is growth in agriculture, whether that's in climate issues, in technology, in finance. If we don't do that, we're doing them a disservice. And that's the one thing that we can do, is make sure that they have the skills to actually be successful in the future.
Excellent, thank you so much. Let me come to you.
Yeah, I think we just have to create more space for young people in every sector, in every area. We always say the future belongs to the young people. I don't believe that. I think the present belongs to them. So we have to start by investing in them today. And and when I look at the things that we just have to do is, sometimes I go around, a lot of times I go around, I find people saying, we want to empower the youth. But I've never really seen a young person walk up to me and say, I'm being empowered. So it seems that those that want to empower them are empowering themselves. So the youth don't need empowerment, they need investment. Invest, invest, invest.
Wow. Thank you. Andrew.
Yeah, look, I only completely applaud that. I totally agree. I'd probably come back just another step and say we need to educate our little girls and boys to equal standards to become young women executives and young male executives, so that they can take these business opportunities which are out there. And the great notion that I see is a huge future of inexpensive energy, which will keep Africa green, which will keep agriculture growing to the multi-trillion-dollar opportunities it can be, and not the fuels we currently worship and we currently seem to be aligned and stuck to. And that's fossil fuels, which, left unchecked, will destroy the future of every young person in Africa, turn Africa into deserts. That is a future which we can scientifically see. It's not contentious science. It is there for you to see. We need to say, okay, let's adopt these fantastic principles, but let's now bring in the era of totally clean, only green, inexpensive energy, so that all the young people can rise and go into that future which my friend is speaking of. I want to make sure those foundations are there so that you, as great bankers, great financiers, can lend to these young people, and you, Mr. President, can ensure that equality of opportunity, which is led through cheap green energy, equal education outcomes, is there for every developing nation.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. Maktar, let me come to you next.
Just let them talk, and not talk on their behalf. That's my vision. Youth, like small nations, are often in the world arena talked about and talked for. And I think that what I would like is to see more and more young people being here and talking to us and telling us what they think, and for us to respond to their needs.
Excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that. Mr. President, you have the final word. What is your promise to young people?
Well, before I come to that, let me say, we all feel very optimistic. And the grounds on which we base the optimism is that all of us, as we are here on the panel and the audience, we seem to very well understand what we need to do. We must do it. And so that some of the things we are saying don't remain just as slogans and things like that. We need to. And second, the young people are talking about and have talked about so many times in all sorts of ways, and we know there are millions and millions of them out there. We also need to be thinking of what we do more with them than for them, because they really know what to do as well. All they need are these inputs, which many people mentioned here. It's about access to different things they don't have access to. And at the same time, we also need to get them involved. There are certain decisions that have to be made at different levels, and the more they get involved in these decision-making processes, the better. I think we get the best outcomes. And then I think once they have a voice, once they make a contribution to what happens to them, to what happens to all of us, and we should also be integrating. It's not just about the young people, it's about all of us. So we have to make sure that we look at the society as a complete thing, and then allow the different players to do their part. I think that's what I would say.
Thank you very, very, very much. You know, ladies and gentlemen, 2 days ago at the Commonwealth Youth Forum, a young lady stood up and said, you know, we don't want to talk anymore about, you know, with us, for us. We want to talk about with us all the time. We want to be in the rooms. It's not just about when it's about young people. We want to be in the rooms when it's about every issue. And that kind of transformation in our approach to young people makes them a huge asset for our future, the common future that we're looking to head to. So please, ladies and gentlemen, a huge warm round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very, very much. And you may take your seats. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. As a panel take their seats, I think you can give them a bigger round of applause for a good discussion. We will play the video, but before we go to that, allow me to call our next speaker to come up and deliver the keynote address. Let's give a warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Dr. James Mwangi, Managing Director and CEO of Equity Group Holdings. Thank you.
Your Excellency, President Kagame, Excellencies, present, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's really a great honor for the private sector to be allowed, given a chance to add its voice. Let me go straight, because of constraint of time, on the subject of global reset. That is what really is exciting, that we are talking about global reset. It means that we are living a 1945 movement, 75 years, whichever figure you want to do, is when the current global economic and social order was set. That's when most of the institutions were set. COVID, for whatever it was, exposed the current economic and social order and its unsustainability. It demonstrated to the world how unsustainable the world had built. Business had lost trust with host communities. Inequalities had reached a level unprecedented in history. And globalization, competitiveness, economies of scale, the theories upon which the world was being built have been really put to question, because at the end of the day, it was availability. PPEs were not available when they were needed. Vaccines were not available in Africa when they were needed. As a result, the world has come to that moment again, a moment of global reset. I was not there. I bet you were not on that table. And maybe that is why our interest as the Commonwealth, because we were not on the table. As African nations, because we were not on the table, our interests were not taken into account. And as a result, we are where we are today. So the issue has been very well tackled by the panel that spoke before me, that this movement of reset is a movement of a new vision, is a movement of a new leadership, is a movement, like Julie have said, even the youth want to sit on the table. That is the moment we are living in. Fortunately, we are the generation that is in positions of influence and positions of leadership. And the question is, how will we reset the world? And I like really the theme of the conference or the forum, delivering a common future. And as President Kagame has put it forward, it must be a common future of shared prosperity. It must be a future of equal opportunities, and equal opportunities then promote equality in society. As Adeshina said, it's a future of inclusivity, where nobody is left out. And so as we really look at this movement of resetting the world, a movement of a new vision, a movement of new leadership, the question is, what role would the Commonwealth play? And the architects of the forum came out strongly that by connecting innovating and transforming, then we can create that common future of shared prosperity, where the private sector, business regains its trust with the host community, where inequality is addressed. It's on this basis that we as the private sector felt we could add the voice that sustainability should have a multidimensional approach. But on the multidimensional approach, top of it would be a social inclusivity and sustainability, and an environmental sustainability. The world needs to recognize we as the leaders are holding the world in trust for future generations, and we should leave it better than we found it. It's on this basis that the private sector, with a lot of consultation, we have come out with a proposal as to how the Commonwealth could come together. I want to acknowledge from the onset, because Equity decided if nobody is coming forward with a plain sheet, we'll come with a plain sheet and coordinate. We appreciate Mokhtar Diop. He flew to Nairobi, and the next thing was that he gave me 22 of his top brains to be part of this co-creation. We have 16 development banks, additional leading them, African Development Bank, or the European Development Bank saying, yeah, it involves financing. We want to have our eyes on the plan and put so that we can support it, we can co-finance, and we can syndicate the African banks as we finance this plan. I want to recognize the host governments, the national governments. They had their priorities right. The governments need to create the enabling environment, so the priorities must be right. Let me hasten to add, like Rwanda, with the maize strategy. It's clear what Rwanda wants out of the transformation. Becoming a global financial and business center. Focusing on the hospitality, which they have, focusing on logistics. So everybody knows what they want, but it looks like we had no common plan that we could all put our heads on. And with all the heads on the deck, pulling or pushing the same direction, we believe the reset will happen and happen with our interest considered. Let me also recognize the UN. The UN said this reset needs to take into account the sustainable development goals, and they signed to the plan. And so essentially, it's a plan that the Commonwealth, then we felt we could sell to them. And after 3 visits to London to meet with the Commonwealth, I'm glad the Commonwealth said, looks like a coherent plan that we can adopt, and hand it over to President Kagame. And during his 2-year term of presidency, then the concept of execution can take ground, and we lay a strong foundation. Armed with the concurrence of the Commonwealth Secretariat, we went to the East African community and said, how does it look? And I saw Peter earlier on. Peter is here. Peter said, where do I sign on behalf of the East African community? We felt we were gaining ground, and then Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, he said, this is a good plan. Let me now summarize the plan in just a few words. The first one is we realized when COVID hit, we stopped everything, but didn't stop eating. Additional, you said it earlier. The first priority is then to focus on agricultural productivity. And let's not stop talking about African potential, Africa having 60% of all the Arab blood. Let's convert that Arab blood into productive agricultural land, and hopefully stem the food inflation that has confronted the world. The second one is Africa is endowed significantly with mineral resource and mineral wealth. That moment of reset has come for Africa to rethink, not to export oxides, but to add value to its mineral wealth and export finished goods. That will create millions of jobs for the young people. And there will be formal jobs in the formal sector. And our export values will go significantly. And of course, government revenue in taxes will be 30, 40-fold because of the enhanced value. And then is the great opportunity for the Commonwealth, for Africa to transform agriculture and the natural resource wealth. It requires massive investment, capital flows between the Commonwealth countries in form of investment is the greatest opportunity. Out of that is also trade opportunities between ourselves. You bring capital goods to Africa, Africa process, and then buy the processed finished products. If Commonwealth, we were told, may not have legal frameworks for trade, but if we have a common objective and common values, that will be enough to be the basis of our investment and trade. Number 3 is what everybody has talked about, young people and women. Let's really capacitate our micro, small, and medium enterprises to populate the value chains of agriculture, mining, manufacturing, processing, trade, and investment. We'll have linked the young people to the formal sector. We'll have sustained them. We'll have made their jobs high value-adding jobs. If truly we want the young people to be on the table, let's embrace knowledge, let's embrace technology, let's embrace innovation, let's embrace science. Let's not do the traditional manufacturing and traditional industrialization. We are in that era where young people could really play a role if we use the tools that they are familiar with. And lastly, as we roll out this plan, let's pay attention to our environment, sustainability of our environment. Let's invest in social impact so that nobody is left behind. Let's capacitate the young people, the women, the rural communities, so that they play a role in the economic activities and they get the benefits of the economic transformation. Let's protect our environment. Let's use clean energy. Let's adopt sustainable processes. Lastly, on behalf of those championing a new course of Africa, of the Commonwealth after the reset, I extend an invitation to you to have your hearts on the deck, for then you'll be shaping the new global economic and social order and creating the order you would like to see. You no longer be passive, but you'll be active in shaping the future we all want, a common future of a common prosperity and a commonwealth that means the same thing to all of us. Thank you very much, and the invitation is extended to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. James Mwangi. Thank you very, very much for that. Thank you for ending with the sustainability of the environment and investing in social impact. And the truth is, our young people are way ahead of us in this regard. They are more passionate, they're more idealistic, they have the energy, and they can truly drive that agenda. Thank you very much. Our final thing now is the video. And so, technical team, I'm coming to you now. Over to you, let's take a look at the video. We are the Commonwealth. Thank you.
873 days ago, the novel coronavirus outbreak was declared a public health emergency of international concern. The world was not prepared for what was to come. Our lives and livelihoods came to a standstill. Global health inequity was exacerbated. Prevention measures such as restriction of movements negatively affected the way we interacted and did business with each other. Innovation accelerated as the best minds refocused their energies to stopping the pandemic and adapting to a changed world. And now, here we are in Kigali for the first and largest gathering of governments and businesses in the Commonwealth since the pandemic started. This is our opportunity to rethink and redesign policies, programs, and partnerships that will build back a stronger, sustainable, and resilient world. We urge you to connect, discuss, debate, and create tangible strategies that will answer the challenges we now face as we come out of the pandemic. How will we connect the Commonwealth through free trade barriers, easier movement of people, and aligned social policies? How will we innovate to ensure the fourth industrial revolution benefits all in the fight against poverty and inequality? How will we transform our businesses to transition towards sustainable models that will protect our people and planet? There are 2.6 billion of us in the Commonwealth. We have the will and know-how to come together, seek lasting solutions, and remain united. We are passionate about protecting our planet. We are committed to eliminating inequality. We are focused on transforming our world to one that is peaceful and just. This Commonwealth Business Forum is your moment to connect, innovate, and transform. Welcome to the Commonwealth Business Forum.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Connect, innovate, and transform. And let's finish with the words we heard earlier this morning. As we do all this, let's focus on putting the common back into the wealth. Thank you very, very much. A warm welcome once again. May I ask His Excellency, the President, and the dignitaries, would you please now get ready to visit the exhibition and see what Rwanda has put on offer, on display for us all to see. Let's give them a round of applause as they stand up. And a round of applause for all of you. Thank you very, very, very much. And allow me now to hand over to the incredible Georgie. Can I ask you to come right back up? Thank you.
Rero ibikomeje kubera hangaha muri iyi sare navuga yuko yaririmo abayobozi batandukanye abanyacyubahiro batandukanye bayobowe na nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika mu biganiro bitandukanye bigize iri huriro ry'ubucuruzi ihuriro rimaze imyaka 25 rishinzwe muri izi nama za Commonwealth cyangwa za CHOGM. Iri huriro rikaba uyu munsi mu buryo bwihariye riri kugaruka cyangwa ryagarutse ku cyakorwa mu bijyanye no guhuza umurongo wo kubaka ejo hazaza h'ibihugu bigize uyu muryango n'isi muri rusange. Mu magambo yagarutswe ahangaha rero uko mwabyiyumviye nubwo hari byinshi byavuzwe mu rurimi rw'icyongereza nyine, ariko nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika yagarutse ahanini ku bijyanye no kuba abantu bose muri rusange bagomba kugira uruhare mu bijyanye no kubaka aho ejo hazaza, kuko nubwo hakomeje gukomozwa ku bijyanye n'urubyiruko, ariko avuga ko kugira ngo urubyiruko rubashe gutanga umusaruro uko bikwiriye nuko rushyirwa cyangwa rwemererwa kugira amahirwe yo kugira uruhare muri buri gikorwa kigenda gikorwa, kugira ngo ibikorwa n'ibibakorerwa byose bibe nabo babigizemo uruhare bibashe gutanga umusaruro. Ndetse Akinumi Adeshina, Dr. Akinumi Adeshina uyobora Banki Nyafurika itsura amajyambere, nawe yagarutse cyane cyane ku mahirwe agaragara mu bijyanye n'ishoramari ndetse n'ubwiza butandukanye bugenda bugaragara mu bikorwa, mu gushyira mu bikorwa imishinga itandukanye hano mu Rwanda. Avuga ko ahaheruka mu myaka 3 ishize, ariko buri mwaka uko aje muri iki gihugu abona impinduka ahanini zishingiye mu gushyira mu bikorwa imishinga itandukanye igenda ipangwa. Akavuga rero yuko uko nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika y'u Rwanda ashimangira akenshi ibijyanye no gushyira mu bikorwa, aribyo bituma n'ubundi gahunda cyangwa igenamigambi riba ryarakozwe cyangwa intumbero igihugu kiba gifite bigenda bishyirwa mu bikorwa bigatanga umusaruro. Akavuga rero yuko ari ikintu kigomba kwigwaho n'ibihugu bigize uyu muryango wa Commonwealth mu buryo no gushyira mu bikorwa imishinga itandukanye no gukuraho ikinyuranyo kiri hagati y'abakire n'abakene. Ni ikintu nacyo yagarutseho cyane avuga yuko ibihugu bikize n'ibihugu bikennye biri muri uyu muryango bigomba gushyira hamwe mu bijyanye no gukuraho icyo kinyuranyo kinini cyangwa itandukaniro rinini riri hagati y'abakize n'abakennye n'ibihugu bikize n'ibikennye, aho yatanze urugero rw'imibonekere y'urukingo rwa COVID-19 aho yavuze yuko kugeza uyu munsi 16% bonyine by'abanyafrika aribo bashobora kubona uru rukingo rwa COVID-19, avuga yuko iki ngiki atari ikintu cyiza cyo kwishimira, ahubwo hakaba hashyirwamo imbaraga mu bijyanye no kugira intumbero imwe, gukorera hamwe mu bijyanye no gutanga umusaruro w'icyifuzwa kugerwaho mu bijyanye n'iterambere, harimo n'imibonekere y'urwo rukingo rwa COVID-19. Ibi rero byanagarutswe n'ubundi n'ubuyobozi bw'ubujyamabanga bukuru bwa Commonwealth, bagarutse cyane cyane ku kamaro k'uyu muryango, bagaruka ku bijyanye n'imikoranire, aho bavuze yuko uyu muryango kugeza uyu munsi muri uyu mwaka wa 2022 bigaragara yuko ufite umusaruro mbumbe ufatanyirije hamwe wa miliyari ibihumbi 13 by'amadolari ya Amerika. Akaba ari ukwiyubaka guhagije, bigaragaza gukomera k'uyu muryango, aho bagaragaza yuko uyu muryango ufite amahirwe yose, yaba ku rubyiruko bafite ubwenge, bafite ubushobozi, bafite ubumenyi, bashobora kuba babyaza umusaruro mu guteza imbere ibihugu byo muri uyu muryango, ariko n'ibihugu by'isi muri rusange, bishingiye ku bunararibonye buva muri uyu muryango. Bakomoje nanone ku kuba u Rwanda rwaramenye aya mahirwe, bashimira nyakubahwa Perezida Paul Kagame ko yamenye amahirwe ari muri uyu muryango, yuko Commonwealth ariyo nzira yo gukorera hamwe mu buryo rusange buteza imbere ibihugu. Akaba ari nayo mpamvu iki gihugu cyasabye kikanemererwa kuba umunyamuryango w'ibi bihugu bivuga ururimi rw'icyongereza, mu gihe byari bizwi yuko kenshi harimo ibihugu byakoronejwe mu by'ukuri n'Abongereza, ariko uyu munsi u Rwanda rukaba ari rumwe mu banyamuryango. Ibi rero bikaba byagarutsweho banashimira cyane uburyo u Rwanda rwahisemo kujya muri uyu muryango. Ni byinshi rero byakomojweho muri iyi nama n'abantu batandukanye bagize ibiganiro, turi buze kugenda tunagarukaho uko amasaha agenda akomeza, kuko ibiganiro hano birakomeje. Iri huriro ry'ubucuruzi rirakomeje hano muri Kigali muri iyi nama ya CHOGM.
On the 24th of June, tee off at the networking golf tournament here at the Kigali Golf Resort. Put your golfing skills to the test. To top off a very special week, catch a vibe at the Chop Live Kigali concert on the 25th of June in BK Arena. The lineup is incredible. You will not want to miss it. Get your tickets. But for now, enjoy everything that Kigali has to offer and the very, very best wishes for a successful CHOGM. Once again, you're most welcome. Murakaza Nez.